What's up, fellas?
Morning, everybody.
What's up, guys?
Hello.
Welcome back to another episode of Locky Top Sports. You can find us at Locky Top Sports on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. We've got a full slate for you guys today, and we are going to be talking about a variety of sports: NCAA football, basketball, of course, the NFL conference championships. Frank's going to put it on ice for us, and we'll be sharing our best bets for the weekend, as well as a little small preview of tomorrow's Australian Open final. But before all that, we just want to take some time to commemorate and memorialize Kobe. Yesterday was 4 years since he passed. Why don't we just all go around the room and kind of discuss what Kobe means to each and every one of us. Josh, I'll start with you.
All right, guys. Kobe Bryant, obviously he was an icon. Obviously my favorite basketball player of all time. And that's really saying something because, I grew up in a time with Kobe and Michael Jordan. So he really defined, I think, my generation's love for pro basketball. And, I want to share with you a clip that kind of personifies his never give up, never quit, job's not finished mentality. Even when, his back's against the wall, he was the ultimate teammate, the ultimate leader. And he always, took every game with that mindset, that Mamba mindset. And I want to share this clip. I think everybody's seen it, but it's probably one of my most favorite Kobe memories. So we'll go ahead and play that for you guys.
Artest looking, gets it to Bryant. Bryant dribbling, has to put it up with the buzzer. Banks it in! He banks in the three! And he clearly got it off in time. What a tough shot, banking in the three. And the Lakers survived to win their 8th in a row. What a disappointing loss for the Miami Heat, who so well here in the fourth quarter.
Look at that.
But Kobe Bryant
Right in
with
D-Wade's
17
face.
fourth quarter points sends this place crazy. And the fans with a standing ovation for the Lakers. Let's go.
Yeah, so, Mamba strikes, baby. Right off the inbounds there, banks it in. And like you heard there, it was their 8th straight win going into that season. There was a lot of great games like that for him. Always putting the Lakers on his back, even when there was some lean years there, after the departure of Shaq. You got the likes of Smush Parker coming into LA to play with Kobe, and he consistently took them to the playoffs. I mean, he couldn't get over the hump until the Lakers made the trade for Paul Gasol from the Grizzlies to bring him out to LA, and then obviously with the addition of Ron Artest from the Houston Rockets a couple of years after that, Kobe winning those finals against Orlando, and then the rematch with Boston, right? So to kind of solidify his place on the Mount Rushmore of all-time greats of the NBA. But, it was really unfortunate to see his flame go out a little too soon. Obviously, him and his daughter, Gianna, and, her teammates from her traveling AAU basketball team, obviously perished that day on that unfortunate flight. And, I think the world kind of started changing for the worse. Starting from Kobe's death, then a couple weeks later, it goes into COVID. I'll never forget where I was. I was down at Fort Rucker, Alabama, and, got the news, and I was away from my phone. I was away from my friends. Me and Andrew, we've been Kobe fans for a long time. I'm sure he's going to go around, and when we go around the room, and he's going to share his memories. But, at that moment in time, when I found out about Kobe's death, the first person I wanted to call was Andrew. I couldn't call him. And I know that was an emotional day for me. I think a lot of my classmates were like, man, are you from California? Like, were you Kobe's like best friend? Like, were you his adopted son? But I did have a very strong emotional reaction to his death. You know, he was my Superman. You know, growing up, and a lot of the things that I've applied, you know, to not only my personal life but my professional life, has all been based off of you know, kind of the lessons that he taught me, even though he didn't know he was, with his never quit, you know, Mamba mentality, take no prisoners, you know, what you deserve. And that's kind of how I've treated my career, especially, and you know, hope that I can pass that on to my boys, because you know, I think the masculinity of the world these days could use a little bit more Mamba mentality mixed into it. So, love Kobe, love what he did for you know, those late '80s, early '90s babies, and he's missed. I guess now would be a good time to even bring up. I told Andrew this, you know, in passing. I know I've shared this with you too, Naveen. I was joking with my wife. I told her, I said, if we ever have another kid, you know, I'm going to name him Kobe. You know, if it's a boy. She's like, no, you're not. That's insane. You're not going to name him Kobe. I was like, no, I'm serious. If we name him, or if we have another son, we're going to name him Kobe. And you know, here we are 4 years after that conversation, and in about 2 or 3 weeks, my wife's going to give birth to a little girl. And we're going to name her Gianna after Kobe's daughter. So, if that doesn't show you how much I love Kobe, love his family, and you know, value what he's brought to my life, I really don't know what else I can do. But you know, rip Kobe, Vanessa, and the rest of the kids. You know, my heart and love goes out to you guys, and it's gone too soon. And you know, that's all I got, fellas. Thanks for letting me share that.
Cool. Frank, Kobe impact you in any way? Any thoughts with his passing 4 years ago?
Yeah. So Kobe is one of those guys I look at, I would say in sports as just a winner, He's like the type of guy that would show up at 4:00 in the morning. I remember watching ESPN as a kid, and there were, little stories about guys on the team that would show up to practice at 8:00, 9:00. He's already been there for 4 hours, 5 hours. And, these guys couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe someone woke up at 4 a.m., took over 1,000 shots before these guys even woke up. So for Kobe, he just, his talent was all the way there his whole career, and he just outworked people. So, when you look at, the basketball player and the person, he got to where he was by working hard, like if you look at, I would say like the American dream of people, he really got there all the way, 100% effort every day, every game, every day of his life. I think I learned a lot from that, just doing what I do for a living, working in sales. You kind of have to wake up, get ready to go, get your coffee, be ready every single day. You never know when one day is going to, change your life really. So, you just have to be prepared. And that's kind of what I've learned from Kobe is always be prepared, be better prepared than your opponent. And, just be the best that you can be.
Cool. Yeah, great thoughts there, Frank. For me growing up, I wasn't the biggest Kobe fan, but just as I matured in age and kind of Kobe got older and I got older, Kobe became one of the people in sports I respect the most. I think Kobe taught me a couple things. Number one, the journey is the destination, right? So we're talking about hard work. We're talking about applying yourself, being the best, repetitions, practice, and sometimes you're looking for like, what am I doing this for? But what I learned from Kobe is each step of the way, each of these short accomplishments are something that you can look forward to, and that's really part of the destination of where you're going and achieving your goals. If you don't go through all those steps, you can't achieve where you came from and where you're at now. So that's one like kind of mentality thing that Kobe taught me. Second thing is just logistically, like obviously he died in a helicopter crash, but the reason why he took helicopters is that he could work harder, he could fade traffic in LA, he could get to more meetings. So that was another just example of how he was the best at working hard. And last point is like what I really am sad about is, of course, other than the loss of his kids and the other teammates, is like we were really robbed of the second half of Kobe, like the last couple chapters of his life. Not many people know Kobe Bryant won a Academy Award for short films for his film Dear Basketball. If anybody hasn't seen it, I really recommend that. It's an animated short. I think he would have done a tremendous job, like helping to raise everybody's kids through these short films and content. So that's another aspect of Kobe's life that really touched me. Yeah, I think every guy I know at some point after Kobe's passing shed a couple of tears. Not many things can get a bunch of people our age, especially guys, to feel those types of emotions. And Kobe's passing was just like one of them. Like it's kind of like, where were you when Kobe died? Where were you on 9/11? Like those are the same kind of mental kind of feelings that I got. And that's those points are really what I wanted to share about Kobe, and he made a lasting impact on the game, and I think all of our lives forever. So, Andy, I'll let you wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean, all of you guys, brought up great points. Clearly, I myself am a huge Kobe fan. The reason why I'm, draped in Lakers gears is because of Kobe. Even before coming to America, I was watching him over in Korea. So, watch this career unfold, so to speak, and get this Mamba mentality that Josh gifted me when I moved to this apartment. Some staring at this every day. It's pretty crazy to think about this. I would say again, the work ethic is what differentiated him. He was definitely athletically very, very gifted. Don't get me wrong. It's not as if he were regular Joe, average Joe, and then just got there by hardworking. He comes from a NBA family. His dad played in the NBA and all that, but he also wasn't comparing to the upper echelon of athletes. He wasn't gifted with Michael Jordan's big hands that he could palm the ball. He wasn't gifted with LeBron type of physique or Kevin Durant's height. But he still got to where he is in this accomplishment by working hard, outworking people. If any of you guys haven't seen the Netflix documentary on the Redeem Team, I highly recommend it. There's a segment where the current generation of NBA players talk about how mesmerized they were to work out with him. They were going to the club in Vegas when they were doing the summer camp. Coming back, they run into Kobe in the elevator, similar to Frank's story, just drenched in sweat at 4 a.m. And these guys, the young LeBron, Carmelo, Wade, before they started winning, they were just running into him. And that's when they realized, okay, this guy's better than me, and he's working out X times a day. How can I catch up to him? So they always mention that as a motivator. I'll also echo Naveen's comments about the whole helicopter thing. He was very logistically, like that's all he thought about was how can I utilize my time in the best way possible. He would do early morning workouts so that way he could wrap up his workouts and come home for in time for family breakfast, and then take a nap once they go to daycare or school, and then wake up again, go work out. So a lot of like inspirational stories. I'm sure I could go on and on and on about, but I again, just kind of want to say that he's definitely left a lot of impact on all of our lives. Just kind of like that mentality. A lot of athletes, even to this day, cite that. I think we've seen, especially this week, crazy enough, on the anniversary of the 81, as well as yesterday on the anniversary of his passing. These athletes going extra crazy. So I'll come back to that in a moment. But again, I just want to say Kobe sort of represented, similar to how Frank phrased it in An American Dream. It's not always been pretty. He started out as a arrogant rookie, so to speak, and then he got going, and then he he was one of the most popular athletes in America. And then the incident with Shaq and the legal trouble, and that sort of made him the most hated athlete in America. And then with the redemption stories, and then after retirement, he became this sort of mentor figure. He got into the animation. He also started investing body armor and a lot of different things. So I do echo Naveen's comment that we could have seen another career like Magic Johnson or Shaq's, where he sort of goes for the billionaire status into investing. Of course, making money is not the end game in life, but that was sort of what drove him, is the challenge, and he wanted to outwork other people. He wanted to try to expand his sort of life and into different things. What do I do now that my basketball career is over? That's how he got into making the shorts, Dear Basketball. So a lot of good things. I feel like we were missing out. There's also a series, I think it was called The Detail, similar to Manning Cast, where Kobe sort of breaks down the plays. Really crazy to see like what goes through an athlete's mind when he sees it. It's similar to how Tony Romo calls every play before it happens. So I think we were definitely robbed of that. So rest in peace. I'll move on to the 81 piece a little bit. Luka yesterday, phenomenal performance. Joel Embiid earlier this week, Karl Anthony Towns, as well as Devin Booker. So I'll rank these performances, the 60 plus performances of the week. So Luka with 73, Joel Embiid with 70, and then Karl Anthony Towns and Booker with the 62s. What stands out to me is Joel Embiid, because the other players, compared to the other players, Embiid only played 36 minutes. He actually probably would have set out the whole fourth quarter if the Phillies didn't start losing their lead. So it wasn't by any means chasing records or anything like that. And I think there's a certain stigma in the industry when someone is just going for the records, similar to how Devin Booker did it a few years ago. And we allegedly hear that Will Chamberlain, when he got to 100, that's how it happened, is that his teammates would just immediately foul the other team's players, send them to the free throw lines, so that way they can get the ball back, just throw a touchdown pass to Wilt, given that he's very tall, and then just either have him get fouled or just dunk in the basket just to get to 100. So I think a lot of these inflated records don't, at least in my opinion, doesn't really deserve as much respect. That's why no one's talking about Booker 70 as like a huge accomplishment compared to something like Luka and Embiid this week, as well as Damian Lillard and Donovan Mitchell last year. These were genuine efforts in trying to get their team to the W column without worrying about what is my box score sheet look like. Just kind of looking at this, I'll make a couple more comments and then we can move on to the next topic. Luka is the one that's just crazy. He attempted only 33, so the lowest of the four performances. Embiid had the most amount of field goal attempts, as well as the most free throws. But it's also a product of a little bit of both. He does sort of flop to get the fouls, but you can't hate the player. You hate the game, sure, whatever, but you can't hate the fact the guy is taking advantage of how the NBA is officiating these games. And if I had him on my favorite team, I'd be happy. Like, yeah, send him to the line. Oh, he's getting fouled. So he's just playing the smart game, similar to James Harden. That all being said, I know true shooting percentage isn't the end of all, but Luka just posted 91% true shooting percentage. I think that's crazy. He was also dishing out assists, just being the floor general that he is. It's very similar to Damian Lillard's game last year, where Damian Lillard had 11 assists on top of the 71 that he dropped. So these guys could have passed Kobe. So, do we get to, again, will it be broken? I think it's possible, but I just don't see it at this moment. These are some historical performances of all-time greats like Luka. I wouldn't call Damian Lillard as like an all-time great, as in like the top 20 or top 30. But when we were just looking at the offensive game, I think he certainly has the arsenal, he has the range, the accuracy, and all that. And it took these guys playing near 40 minutes, 45 minutes, in Donovan Mitchell's case, 50 minutes, including overtime, and still couldn't really get above 75. There's a reason why other than Wilt 100, and then it's Kobe with 81. Then there's Wilt with 75. We talk about the pace and how sort of soft NBA has gotten nowadays. But there's still a reason. Like back in when Wilt was playing, the pace was very similar to today, maybe even faster. And still, Wilt was the only one to do it. I think it has to be a perfect blend of someone getting hot, the coach sort of allowing that. Like you have to have that respect from your teammates to say, okay, this guy can fire it. So like Luka, Damian Lillard, sort of would be in that range. Your team also has to be sort of just suck just enough so that your star player has to be in the game. So, for example, Embiid, if the Sixers were actually doing a great job and closed the game, he would not have been back in the game, and he would have probably had around 60 points. And it sort of worked out in a perfect storm that he got to come back in the game. Same with Luka, and Luka's game actually very close. In the case of Karl Anthony Towns and Devin Booker, they were sort of forcing it in the second half. Both of them had a huge first half and 40 something points, and they were going for it. In the Karl Anthony Towns' case, he shot 2 for 10 in the fourth quarter, and they lost the game. Same with Devin Booker. They had a chance in the fourth quarter, but instead of utilizing Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal, they try to force it through Booker, and then he even ended up airballing the game winner. So I think there's these two things sort of are getting criticized on the sporting media. Someone like Stephen A. Smith blasting these guys, and I think all of that is going to be factored into, will we see another performances like that? Sure, there's a increased scoring output, but I think there's also, are they going to sort of think about these things like, oh, if I force it, and then, for example, if my team doesn't win, am I going to get criticized? And I think this generation of NBA players do care a lot about those media perception and the stats. Famously, Kevin Durant once said he doesn't like to shoot the ball at the end of the game clock because his shooting percentage is going to go down. So thinking about all of those things, I think it's highly unlikely that it's going to be broken. I'm not going to say it's an unbreakable record, but just the right perfect storm. And there's one more possibility that I'll add, and this has happened actually when Jermaine O'Neal got very close to Reggie Miller's scoring record, and he subbed himself out and said, you know what, Reggie, my idol, he had 56, I'm at 55, coach, I'm out, we're winning enough, I don't need to stay in the game. That type of sort of respect thing, I could see that happening for this generation that grew up watching Kobe. And once you get to 80, of course, if their team is in a tight spot, that goes out the window. But I could easily see that. Plus, also the load management. So I'll just wrap it up there. I know I've spoken a lot, but just wanted to bring that perspective to the listeners.
Cool. Thanks for your thoughts, Andy. Very thorough walkthrough of the 81 and if we'll get there. So I'd like to transition a little bit to NCAA football. At the end of the day, this is a Tennessee football, Tennessee sports podcast. We want to make sure that we're relevant to all you guys. There's been a crazy amount of football updates that we haven't shared with you. Maybe if you follow us on socials, you've seen some of it, but just wanted to talk about it with the whole squad here and make sure that we touch upon it. Frank, I want to start with you. What do you think has been going on? What do you think are the impacts of some of the coaches retiring, leaving, moving teams? What have you seen so far? Maybe talk about Harbaugh's exit a little bit since we didn't have you on our reaction. But just what are your thoughts on all these coaches shifting around and NCAA football not looking like it was in 2023 and 2024?
Yeah, there's definitely some movement. What I would say is I kind of saw Harbaugh leaving. I think I mentioned it before. I mean, it's just, to me, he was going to have a lot of problems if he stayed in Michigan. And, you won the national championship, go out on top, man, and I think he kind of did that. Now he's got a shot in the NFL. I don't know that he's going to be a great NFL coach. I don't know that he was really a great NCAA football coach, to be honest. He won the national championship, but I mean, he didn't even coach half the season. It's just like the guy's in there, right? And he coaches half the year and wins the national championship. Is it really the coach?
Right.
They can just hand the ball off and win the game, Michigan. And their defense is just going to stuff the other team. So, I think Harbaugh moving, probably the right move there for him. I'm curious to see if he's successful or not. I don't know that he will be. I think he's got a shot to be like a 500 coach. Maybe you'll see like 9-8 or something like that, or maybe he squeaks into the playoffs next year. But I don't think he's going to come in and dominate, or I don't think his team's going to come in and dominate. I just don't really see it. I think another team that's kind of going to get crushed in NCAA football is Alabama. They've had a lot of players enter the portal, ready to leave. New coach coming in. I just don't. When you look at Alabama, you look at a team that's going to recruit and going to bring in guys, and a lot of the guys they brought in are just gone. All the big dogs are gone, right? So I think they're going to have a tough year. I think kind of like my take for next year for NCAA football. I think Michigan's going to have a pretty tough year. They're not going to be at the end, and I don't think Bama's going to be there either. That's kind of what I'm thinking for the NCAA. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, Frank, I think you bring up a really good point about Alabama being able to recruit at a high level, but I think a lot of that had to do with Nick Saban. Now that we have, Kalen DeBoer as the replacement to Nick, we've seen a lot of people leaving. We've also seen a lot of them stick around, especially at the quarterback position. Jalen Milroe, right? Jalen Milroe, I think he had some difficulties last season trying to adjust to the pro style Nick Saban offense. And I think it's even going to be worse for him to try to adjust to Kalen DeBoer's offensive system that he's going to bring from Washington to install at Alabama. So Alabama's going to pick up, some key players, but I think they're going to really struggle next year. I really don't see them going better than 9-3, 8-4, which, like I've said in our previous podcast, that I think 9-3 is the absolute bottom, ask to get into the 12-team playoffs. And I think, even for us, it's, we're probably thinking it's the top 12 teams ranked in the CFP, but it's not, right? So obviously you got to look at the 5 automatic qualifiers that are going to get in the playoffs from each conference champions, the highest rated conference champs. And then also you're going to have the at-large out of the non-power 5, right? So the one at-large conference champ. So you're going to look at the remaining teams that are going to be probably in a range from, number 11 down to number 18, 19, in the CFP rankings to finish up and round out that last 5, because it'll be 7 automatic bids and then 5 at large. So I really don't think that Alabama's going to continue to be able to recruit at a high level. I also don't think Michigan is going to be able to, because I think Michigan's just going to pass it to the next guy, right? So the offensive coordinator there, I think, is going to be the guy that replaces Harbaugh, and it's not always pure science when you subscribe to that line of thinking of just giving it to the guy that filled in for the last guy. So, that's already official. Okay, yeah, was that announced yesterday afternoon, Andy? Okay,
I think so.
Yeah. So they're going to just pass it to the next guy, and we've seen how that plays out sometimes. That actually happened in Tennessee with Philip Fulmer back in the day when he took over for Johnny Majors, but. And he did win a natty, a couple years later, but statistically that doesn't typically work out. Andy, what do you think? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, and again, I'll try to keep it short since we did the reaction pod. I think the coaches moving, it's gonna shake up. I personally, again, respect Nick Saban a lot. He's the greatest coach in college football. That being said, as a Tennessee fan, obviously I love that he's gone. Also, just as a college football fan, I think that's going to shuffle around coaches, which it already did. Also shuffle around some players. And it's going to bring some more parity. And then no better time than the 12-team playoff season to see the impact.
Cool. I think I have similar thoughts to all of you guys. You really covered it well, but yeah, I think what's interesting to me is how this ties into NFL. We have NCAA coaches going to the NFL now. Will we see an NFL coach come back to the NCAA? That could be cool. What about Pete Carroll? What about Bill Belichick? What about Mike Vrabel? I would say, 3 of the top 10 NFL coaches of the past, 5, 10, 15 years, no matter how you look at it. Will we see them kind of interview for NCAA jobs, or are they going to stay in the NFL and maybe try to get hired later on? I think that's all an interesting angle.
Yeah, I really think, Mike Vrabel and, the evil emperor from New England, I think they're going to sit out a year. And I could potentially see Mike Vrabel going to college football. I know that's probably an interesting topic for another show, but just knowing his love for his alma mater, Ohio State, and then seeing it, they've struggled so much, to beat Michigan and even to, be relevant in the playoffs the last couple of years. I mean, I know they had that wire to wire with Georgia, which was kind of a debatable ending there in 2022. But I think if Ohio State doesn't get it done, we could see some movement there with Day leaving, and then maybe I'm sliding Mike Vrabel back into the fold to be the replacement there.
Josh, can you give us an update about what Tennessee is doing in the portal? Are they signing anyone? Are they getting any great 5 stars or 4 stars coming into the program? Can you fill us in for Tennessee? Yeah,
absolutely. Before I get into the transfer portal, I just want to mention that the NCAA has approved the 6-year medical waiver for Keenan Peely. He was a linebacker. He transferred to Tennessee last year from BYU. He's a 4-star. Had a lot of high hopes for him to be producing in the defense last year. And against UVA, he injured himself, had an upper body injury. It ended his season. So the NCAA granted him a waiver to come back for 6 years. So, filling in a big key there, and a big spot of need really for Tennessee at the middle linebacker position. So that'll be great. Some of the biggest news that we've seen over the last couple of weeks, obviously the addition of, Holden States, the new tight end that we're getting from Notre Dame. He's a 4-star. One of the biggest surprises that we saw more recently is Lance Hurd, the offensive tackle transfer from LSU. He'll be starting at left tackle probably for Tennessee going into this year, and we all know how important that left tackle position is, especially for a young quarterback and trying to keep Nico injury-free going throughout the season. But we've also gotten some really good guys in the portal as well. Our portal ranking is only 19th nationally, which, you can kind of poke some holes in that, but because of all the players that we have returning, we have a lot of seniority coming back. So Josh didn't really have to hit the portal as hard as the likes of like Ohio State, who or Ole Miss, and I know we'll touch on that in a minute. But we didn't have to spend so much time and effort and finances into the transfer portal. But just another couple of guys that I want to mention that Josh did a really good job of identifying maybe key positions of need and finding some gems out there. Jermod McCoy, big pickup from Oregon State. He's a 4-star cornerback. As you guys have seen in December, late December, we had a huge exodus of our incomplete secondary. Basically, at like corner, safety, nickel, everybody left. I blame a couple of factors to that, and that's obviously the transfer portal, but secondly is probably Vol Twitter and all of Tennessee's fans clamoring on how horrible our secondary has been over the past couple of years. And me personally, some of those players I think like Nico Slaughter, I would like to see him return, but me personally, I think I'd rather go for a coaching change at the position. So Willie Martinez being gone, that would make me happier than seeing all those players that we had leave. But I think we had like 4 or 5 defensive backs leave. So picking up Jermod McCoy from Oregon State, 4-star kid, and then obviously one of my favorites that we've gotten is this kid called Chris Brazel. He's a 4-star wide receiver from Tulane. And having him paired up out there with Squirrel White, the return of Brew McCoy, he's coming back for a 6th year after, he had his injury against South Carolina. Then we have Mike Matthews. I don't know if you guys saw Mike Matthews in the Polynesian Bowl, but he was named the MVP of the Polynesian Bowl and just absolutely lit it up. He's going to be the second coming of Jalen Hyatt. They say he's like a mix between Terrell Owens and Debo Samuel. So if you can imagine the type of stud that guy's going to be, especially lined up on the splits out there in Heupel's offense, getting in space, getting the ball in his hands, I think he's going to be a great playmaker for Tennessee. But yeah, I think that's a good wrap up of all the current moves that we've had in the transfer portal for Tennessee, and hopefully some of these pan out, and we can cash in on some of these moves.
Yeah, and Josh, you'll keep us updated as the summer goes along. If anything else happens, and look to Lock It Up as your source for some of these transfer moves.
Yeah.
I do want to touch on 2 schools that are taking advantage of the portal pretty heavily. I'll take you through what's been going on at Ohio State, and Andy will take you through what Lane's doing down in Ole Miss. Starting with Ohio State, basically they are backing up the Brinks truck. They are paying people heavy amounts of money to transfer. So you guys mentioned Will Howard from Kansas State. He looks like they are going to be their solution at QB. Kyle McCord is out. From Lane itself, he's getting the running back Quinshon Judkins from Ole Miss. Caleb Downs and Seth McLaughlin from Alabama. Caleb Downs is like the consensus #1 freshman defensive player of last year. And Seth McLaughlin is the guy that cost Alabama the right to the playoff championship. He was the guy with the weird snaps, but actually he's a very talented offensive lineman. I just don't think at Ohio State he's going to be snapping the ball. But other than that, he's started like 25 games for Bama. So pretty much that should be an indication of how good he is as a player. I think, kind of got a bad rap at the end of last season. I think these are high dollar kind of investments that Ohio State is making. They have 5 or 6 5-stars also coming in as freshmen. So yeah, they should be retooling up in a heavy way. They kind of see the void that Harbaugh leaving has left, and they don't want to get this streak to 4 games in terms of Michigan beating them. Ryan Day's life, job, everything, livelihood, safety is on the line. If they don't win versus Michigan, it's going to be a big issue from him. We might have to do our RIP Ryan Day podcast after that.
Vrabel's coming in hot, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, Vrabel's on his tails. Vrabel's not getting any NFL offers, so I think it's going to be Vrabel if it's not Ryan Day. And if he loses to Michigan, then he can say sayonara. So, Andy, I think I'm done with Ohio State. Why don't you talk about Ole Miss for a second?
Yeah, and I'll just keep it short. Ole Miss currently, judging by the various recruiting sites, sort of concluding the transfer portal season, barring the Alabama and Michigan and Washington exodus, which the players get additional days for their coaches
30
leaving.
days. 30 days.
Yeah. Up till today, Ole Miss sitting #1 in the transfer portal ranking. Allegedly, they've spent nearly $10 million or so in the NIL money. The #1 sort of the player there is Walter Nolan, allegedly getting $600,000 on top of, I guess, whatever side deals that he had, not directly from his previous school, but on just general businesses or whatever. He was a #1 recruit overall a couple of years ago. 6'4", 290-pound lineman. And then they've also got some talented edge rushers, safety from various schools like Florida, South Carolina. They've got the receiver, Juice Wells. So very exciting for Lane. If you guys follow Lane Kiffin's Twitter, it's pretty hilarious. He posts various different cities as he goes on like recruiting trips just to rile up his fan
He's
base. People
trolling.
follow him.
Trolling
People
hard.
follow him because they like him. Also, people follow him because he trolls very hard on Twitter. It's very interesting. Like he posted a picture of him in Alabama after Saban's retirement, just to stir up the coaching speculation. But he's recruiting hard. He hit the portal hard already. Looking forward to see what he can do. Finally, I think he's also had some maturing and growing as a head coach after all the fiasco last 15 years or so. Had a good season, 10-10 win season, went and beat Ohio State, and now they got better. So, they'll be one of the contenders.
Hey, I got a quick question on Lane, right? So if we look at all the people that Ole Miss have brought in, I know we've been, backing up the Brinks truck, like Andy said, in the portal with different schools, is seeing that, especially Ole Miss here. The people that Ole Miss has been bringing in, though, I can't help but look like the Walter Nolans and the Juice Wellses of the world. All of those individuals were malcontents at their last school, and a lot of them were just unhappy wherever they were, whether it was justified or not. Do you think that plays a part in the locker room, especially from a leadership standpoint? I think all of us at some point in our lives have played some type of sports. So those types that were kind of a cancer in the locker room. So Frank, what are your thoughts when it comes to locker room management a little bit? And do you think Lane is making prudent decision making when it comes to hitting the portal and then bringing in good character and good teammates?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, I played football in high school. So, being in a locker room with guys that are all aligned in the same vision, it's very important. I mean, for a sport like football in particular, you really can't have if you turn to the pros, you look back towards, like a Terrell Owens in your locker room or an Odell Beckham in your locker room, or these wide receivers that are, kind of tearing guys apart a little bit. I think it's imperative, really, especially for college guys that are easily influenced, like college athletes kind of all are. You really need a strong leader, and you really need to have a team that has a lot of bond to win a national championship. So yeah, obviously very important to bring the right guys in, to bring in guys that are focused and all on the same goal, so it seems like he's starting the path to do that, fun to see what happens next year,
Yeah, I agree, man. We don't want a lot of divas in the locker room, and unfortunately, I think that's what kind of Ole Miss has done. And I think, especially being a Tennessee fan, Andy, you can kind of attest to this too. Seeing how Lane has coached at Tennessee, like I know he's matured and everything, but I still look back at the Ole Miss game a couple years ago, and I don't know. I guess the jury's still out. We'll see how the season unfolds, but it might turn into a Colorado situation that we had earlier this year, where maybe they start off hot and they kind of flame out. But leading into our next topic, we're going to go talk about the Tennessee basketball games that we have coming up. Obviously, today Tennessee takes on the Vanderbilt Commodores in Nashville. Obviously, we know how that's going to play out. We're not going to talk on that too much. I think Tennessee on some books are at 15. I think the one that my final pick that I locked in on was 13.5. I think Tennessee easily covers that. You have a Vanderbilt team that's struggling. I think they lost by like 50 points to Alabama. Just not good basketball being played there. And Jerry Stackhouse, you can say what you want about him. Good coach, debatable. I think he's not done a really good job at Vanderbilt. Really bad at hitting the high school recruiting in Tennessee, and then in the South, to get any good recruits to come in there and play. I know Vanderbilt's a hard school to get into, but all the good players that he had there too was some gems that he got out of the transfer portal that didn't really pan out for him, and then the other was Scottie Pippen Jr., who was recruited by the guy before he was hired. So if he's going to have any success at Vanderbilt, he's going to have to really step up his recruiting game, and then go from there. And then so for the South Carolina game that's going to be coming up, Naveen, let me pick your brain on that for a little bit, and get some thoughts, and then we'll get on to the Kentucky game that's coming up next Saturday as well.
Yeah, I really think that South Carolina surprised a lot of the country by kind of smacking Kentucky. Kentucky seemed off guard. I don't want that to happen to Tennessee. I think I'm going to stick with my same 3 keys to the game. If you're 6'8" and above, I need to see 5+ rebounds from you. If you're Dalton, Adu, or Ziegler, I need to see 15 points. And if you're wearing the Tennessee uniform, I need to see some lockdown defense. So those are my 3 keys to the game. I think if we hit all those, we'll be good. And I really think that, the only one that can stop us for right now in this 3-game stretch is us. So we're in control. We're in the driver's seat. I think both the South Carolina and UK games in Tennessee?
No, so South Carolina is at Tennessee, and then we travel to Rupp next Saturday. It's going to be an 8 p.m. tip, so the referees are going to be full effect on Saturday night. But just to kind of go back to your 3 keys real quick, Naveen, if anybody's wearing a Tennessee basketball jersey and they're not playing defense, they're not going to be playing. That is the staple of Rick Barnes. If you come to Tennessee and you don't play defense, you're going to be in the transfer portal pretty soon, right? But for me, South Carolina is kind of a paper tiger. I really don't buy into their record. I think that obviously they had a good game against Kentucky where they did the JOB and beat the Wildcats, but I don't know if that's more of South Carolina being good versus a complete letdown from Kentucky. And I'll give you some stats here. South Carolina is the number 52 ranked, 52nd ranked team in KenPom for their, adjusted efficiency overall. They're sitting at number 59 offensively and 65th defensively. So if you're telling me that's a great basketball team, KenPom would beg to argue with you. I know you probably didn't say great, but even good. They're probably, mediocre. The longer conference play goes in throughout the season, I think we'll kind of see how South Carolina kind of unravels. Just to pick up some of their losses too. I know we're not big on looking at other games and trying to pull straws there and make comparisons because in the league anybody can beat anybody on any given night, especially in college basketball. But their losses, big loss to Georgia. They lost to Bama by 30 points, and then they lost to Clemson, right? So, their 3 losses are a lot uglier than Tennessee's 4. I mean, you look at Tennessee, they lost to, North Carolina, Purdue, what was it? Gonzaga, and Mississippi State, right?
Kansas.
Oh, Kansas, excuse me. Yeah, my bad. Kansas, right? So outside of those 4 losses, I mean, I think Tennessee is a much better position. Then we can even look forward into the Kentucky game a little bit, and Kentucky can play defense. I mean, their overall KenPom ranking for their defense is 20th. Their overall team rating is 20th, and their overall adjusted defensive efficiency is 96th. So that's, to me, that is a recipe for Dalton Knecht to drop another 35 points on somebody, right? Referees in attendance or not, I think, Tennessee goes up to Rupp and gets the win. Andy, what are your thoughts on those 2 games? And we'll get to Dalton Knecht.
Sure. You guys know my favorite stat when looking at sports as a single most important stat for predicting outcome is the strength of schedule, strength of record in those that exist, such as college football. ESPN publishes them. So looking at the strength of schedule, South Carolina, 138th. I think I would agree with Josh there. Who have you beaten? Who have you played? Has your losses shown us anything? Same thing for Kentucky here, really looking at their strength of schedule, 63rd. Not sure if I buy that again. And they got a good offense. They're number 5 in the country, actually. But their defense, as Josh pointed out, 96th. We saw what happened when a top offense with Swiss cheese defense plays a team like Tennessee when we played Alabama. So I'll just leave it at that. Back to you, Josh, to talk about the historical run that our man Dalton is having.
Yeah, I mean, Dalton Knecht, like you said, he's having a great season. I wish we could have him more than 1 year. Projected high draft lottery pick from the NBA. What he's doing, we won't see for a long time. I mean, we haven't seen it in Tennessee basketball history. But right now, Ken Palm rankings has him as the number 3 overall ranked player in the country, behind Zach Edey and Hunter Dickinson. I think number 3 is probably where he needs to be, because as we've known, Dalton has had some rough stretches throughout the season where he kind of went, silent, just nothing producing from the floor. But then, he came out of that funk, and then now he's been reeling off these 30, 35, 39, 38, and then I think he dropped down to like mid 20s. So, he's still scoring at a really good clip, but probably a great recipe for another big one tonight. Vanderbilt's not going to have anything for Dalton, and obviously going into the South Carolina game, I think he's going to be fine. I really want to see him go. Go ahead.
Yeah, I figured I'd chime in for a second. I mean, kind of what I'm seeing with Tennessee, because I know you guys are watching pretty much every game. I'm not watching every game, but the obvious things are they're losing some of the pretty tough games, the really top teams. They're losing like the really hard games to win, but they're beating every easy team. They're beating every like medium to hard team. Their losses are to really top teams. So usually, when you go ahead to March Madness a bit, Tennessee seems like a team that gets to the Sweet 16, and they probably lose in the Sweet 16 this year. If you want a future projection, that's kind of what I see from Tennessee basketball. I think I think they do get to the Sweet 16 this year, kind of looking ahead a bit. But I think they do run into a team that is a really, really tough game for them, right around the Sweet 16 or maybe even the Elite 8. But, I think they make a decent run in the tournament this year. Just kind of what I've been thinking a little bit.
I think obviously it comes down to seeding. If you win your conference in the SEC this year, probably going to have at least 6 teams make the dance, just the way it's projecting right now. And it all depends on your quadrant. For me, it doesn't matter where Tennessee, what quadrant they get put in. I think the absolute ask is an Elite 8 finish for Tennessee. I think that keeps the barn bashers at bay a little bit. But to your point, Tennessee has also faced, I think, 3 top 25 teams outside of the teams that they lost to that were inside the top 5. And they beat all of those teams. And some of those were even on the road or a neutral site. So Sweet 16, I think there's going to be a lot of angry Tennessee fans, me included, in that group, where we have to get past the Sweet 16. We've done that year in and year out consistently under Rick Barnes, but that's probably been his biggest detraction. And the naysayers coming after him, that's all he did at Texas, outside of the one Final Four trip that he had early on in his tenure there. But as league play continues to go out on, I think Tennessee is starting that climb. I don't think we've peaked yet. I think there's still a lot that we can improve on. But you look at our defensive efficiency. I mean, defense. Well, they say defense wins championships, right? And then if we can continue to keep getting Dalton to score at the level, and then got Jonas Adu. Jonas Adu has been coming on. That's one of Naveen's favorite guys down low in the post. You just banging people. Him and Toby Awaka. If we can get that production from the post and keep getting the ball driven below the foul line with Zakai Ziegler, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the post is scoring. We get the ball below the free throw line and really get in the paint. That's where Dalton's been successful, whether it's off the dribble drive or the back screens and just getting to the bucket. That's where he's cashed in a lot of his points. And then obviously if we can get our shooters with Jordan Gainey and Vescovy, we can get those guys to average 10 or 12 points. I see Tennessee potentially making the Final Four.
Awesome. I want to switch gears a little bit. We got a huge conference championship this weekend in the NFL. Obviously, we got Chiefs-Ravens at the Ravens. Ravens -4, over under 44.5. Let's start with that game. and kind of talk through our thoughts on the NFL. I want to start with the insane opportunity Vegas is giving you, letting you take Chiefs +4. I think last week I brought up the dogs. This week I'm going all dogs again. All dogs are going to heaven. Only two of the 4 dogs went to heaven last week, but this week it's just too spicy to not take the dogs here. Give me Chiefs +4 and the under 44.5. I think this started at 46 and now is all the way down to 44.5. I think we see some sort of 21-14 ish type game, and really we're going to see playoff experience come through and shine its heavy lights on us. Mahomes, he gets to the Super Bowl. He's a machine. Kelsey's back. He's shaking off the Taylor curse. Taylor's going to be at the game. It's just going to turn up all red for the Chiefs. So, if you don't want to stay in the red, bet the red and go with Chiefs +4 and the under. Andy, let me get your thoughts on this game.
Going exact opposite. Give me Ravens and the over. I know it's gonna be damp, wet, slippery. Just looking at the forecast and all that. But I do think it's gonna be offensive firepower, maybe even a couple of like fumble or defensive scoring happening with the way that Ravens defense is playing. I like the Ravens, way better defense. Not just expecting that the Ravens are going to roll on the offensive side, but I really like their defense. As we talked about, defense wins championships. Ravens this season, they played a lot of tough opponents and really showed who they are. They've beaten the 49ers. They've beaten the Lions. They have to be feeling very confident here that this is their year. So give me Ravens. Give me the over on that. Frank?
Chiefs Ravens. The funny thing with this game, it's like I look at Patrick Mahomes similar to the way I look at Tom Brady, honestly. And if you were betting against Tom Brady in the playoffs, you lost a lot of money. So I just can't bet against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. He always gets to the Super Bowl. It's like to me, that's the comparison I'm using. They're both Hall of Fame quarterbacks. He's still in his prime, and sure, his receivers drop the ball. But, similar to what Tom Brady was doing when he was winning Super Bowls, receivers don't really matter. He had a guy that's 5'10" catching touchdowns. So I like the Chiefs +4. I think it's, the spread's 44.5, right? I do think it's a 24-21 game. And I do think the Chiefs win, to be honest, 24-21. It's kind of what I see there. I figure I'll just go to the other game, Lions, Niners. I think the Niners had a terrible performance last week. They should have definitely lost last week. And I think I do think they're going to have a huge game today. I think the 49ers are going to have a really big offensive game. And I'd figure I'll kick it to Josh, see what he thinks.
Hey, appreciate it, Frank. So looking at the playoffs here, I hate to disagree with you, Frank, and Naveen on the Kansas City train here. It's going to get derailed by the Dirty Birds up in Baltimore today. They're going to go out there. Ray Lewis is going to come out. They're going to do the dance on the field. They're going to do the typical Baltimore screw job in the AFC Championship game and ruin everybody's picks. So if you're on the Kansas City train today, you might as well go ahead and just give me your money, because I'm telling you, I'm going to stack it all on Lamar Jackson, the league MVP. Mark it down. He's going to be the MVP of the league. And, Baltimore's going to make it to the Super Bowl. I think they easily cover this game. I think that there is no appetite really for Kansas City to win. So there might be a little Illuminati NFL sprinkled in there with the referee, some phantom calls. We've seen that go against Kansas City a couple times this year. So, yeah, give me Ravens to cover, and then also to win outright. Then I'm taking obviously the Detroit Lions to win the NFC Championship for the first time ever. Like you said, I'll agree with you on that, Frank. San Francisco should have lost last week, and I'm kind of torn on rooting against San Francisco here in this game because Juwan Jennings, certified dog, former Vol, like he's filling in for Deebo Samuel. I mean, he typically gets a lot of run, but since Deebo's been banged up, he's been getting a lot of reps. But give me Detroit, even though I hate to see that for Juwan and the Niners, but Hendon Hooker and his team going to the Super Bowl. And then I don't know if I want to tease it or spoil it now, but I could go ahead and give you my Super Bowl futures pick, but I think I'll wait till the next show to give you my lock on that one. So, Naveen, what do you got for the NFC Championship game?
I have the Lions. I think there's just too many weapons, and on the Lions, Jahmyr Gibbs, Montgomery, St. Brown, Laporta. I could keep going, but I just want to talk about the lines of the line, the offensive and defensive lines of the line. I think Penei Sewell up there with Trent Williams is one of the best offensive linemen that we have in the game. And on defense, another Michigan man, Aiden Hutchinson, and he is dominant. I think he's going to get after the quarterback. And I think, in this type of matchup, give me the better quarterback. Jared Goff is way better than Brock Purdy. So I want to stick with the better quarterback and just a very attractive number from Vegas. Sometimes you're getting 7, sometimes you're getting 7.5. I mean, 7.5 in an NFC championship. Are you fucking kidding me, Vegas? So that's the way I look at it. Andy, why don't you close us off with your pick?
Yeah, so for the NFC Championship game, I also like the Lions to win outright.
Hey.
I'm going to take the under on this game, however. I do think Lions will score plenty. Not sure how the 49ers sort of keep up. So, my picks would be Ravens to win and the over, and Ravens to cover, and then the Lions to cover and win, and the under on the NFC Championship game. I'll sort of talk about a couple of interesting, or maybe not interesting, depending on who you really root for, of the potential records that's at stake here. So obviously, Travis Kelce, he is only 6 receptions away from passing Jerry Rice for the all-time postseason receptions. Of course, you can still talk about what kind of league it's been, just with the run first or pass first. But gotta respect that records are records. Kelce is also 551 yards from tying all-time playoff receiving yards. So unlikely he gets it done in this playoff, even if he makes the Super Bowl. But that's still on the horizon. Kelce is 4 touchdowns away from tying the all-time playoff touchdowns, but he's not in second place in this one. He has Rice at 22, Emmitt Smith, and Thurman Thomas at 21. So even getting 3 would bump him up to number 2 all-time. And then lastly, Patrick Mahomes, as Frank said it, he's had a phenomenal start to his career in the playoffs. The man's won the division and made it to the AFC Championship game 6 years in a row. So obviously I picked Ravens to win, but looking forward to see what Patrick can do. He's only 2 touchdowns away from tying Peyton Manning for all time, 6 more to pass Brett Favre, and then 7 more for passing or tying, Montana and Aaron Rodgers. Brady is sort of in a different stratosphere, but at least those are the number 2, 3, 4, 5 in the playoff all-time touchdowns. So it's potentially at risk there. Frank, why don't we go to your expert area here? Put it on ice for us. Frank's hot.
Sure. Sure. So I will tell you guys, 3 weeks this season so far, or 3 weeks this year so far, I'm up 117 betting units on. I've pretty much been on fire, taking just about every game right. you know, um, it's like it's a hard thing to look at when I look back at my bets, and I've hit 5 parlays to start the year off. I'm hitting one like every 4 days or 5 days. So I'm looking at today. There's a massive amount of games. More than half the teams in the league are playing today. I really kind of stay away from betting the under in games quite often. But there's 2 games that popped up today where I really, really do like the under. And I'll kind of tell you guys why as well. So the first one is the Oilers. This team was a 500 team about a month ago. They have won 15 games in a row, longest streak in the NHL this season. They're just on fire. They're playing really, really solid defense. So they're just not letting teams score on them very much. And that's really contributing to 2-1 wins, 3-1 wins, 4-1 wins, 3-2 wins. I've seen a ton of games pretty much in a row. And 9 out of the last 10 games that the Oilers have won, the under came in. So 6.5. I do like the under against the Predators. Another thing to note there, Predators have played 5 straight under games as well. So the under is screaming to me off the sheet of all the games today. 9 out of 10 last games for the Oilers have gone under. 5 games in a row under for the Predators. I just see a 3-1 win for the Oilers here, like probably 75 to 80% of the time. It just, it's hard to fade the odds there. 5 in a row, 9 out of 10. I mean, you're looking at pretty close to a sure thing. If you see the Predators come out and score 3 goals, I would be shocked. I mean, genuinely shocked, because it should never happen. The other one is kind of a weird under for NHL to take. It's 5.5. It's the Jets and the Maple Leafs. These teams just played about three days ago, and it was the first time, I believe it's the first time this whole season in the NHL that a game was 0-0 at the end of regulation. Not a single goal scored in 60 minutes. Very few shots throughout the game. The Winnipeg Jets, I think I've mentioned prior, they're a very big, very slow, and very defensive team. They have 2 of the best goalies in the league. The Leafs on the other side, they're pretty much a similar team. Very slow, very big, very strong team. But literally the last time these teams played was 3 days ago, and the score was 1-0. I mean, I just can't take an over. I mean, how can you take an over when neither team scored in 60 minutes? So those 2 games have really kind of jumped off the sheet to me. Kind of just touching a little bit also on the Bruins, because I do like the Bruins today. The Flyers, they recently had their goalie depart, Carter Hart. The thing with them is their backup goalie is better than Carter Hart. So their number 1 goalie is actually, in my opinion, their number 2 goalie. So they've been kind of struggling, though. They've lost 4 games in a row. I don't see that streak ending right now. I think the Bruins kind of just take it to them today. And I'll kick it back up to Naveen.
Yeah, we just want to take you through some of the best bets that I'm betting on for this weekend. You guessed it, I'm addicted to gambling, so I bet a bunch of different sports. I'll be talking about some college basketball and one German soccer pick that I have. I have Borussia Mönchengladbach versus Leverkusen over 3.5 goals. They hit the over all the time. You can set your clock to it. If the sun rises, the over hits. That's kind of like Frank's Avalanche. So just make sure you bet the over. I think it comes out, the game starts in about 45 minutes. So hopefully we'll get uploaded by then. And then I'm going to talk to you about 3 of my other college basketball picks. I'll start with UNC. UNC seems like a wagon. It seems like one of the best teams in college basketball right now. Josh and I went to UNC Tennessee. They're pretty impressive shooting the ball. I will say that Tennessee also, improved a lot since that game. So I wish we could play them again. But yeah, I'll go with UNC. And then my other two picks are Gonzaga -25 and Minnesota +2.5. I'll talk about I'm making these picks because of trends. I'm a Baccarat player. I love trends. So Minnesota is 16-3 against the spread. They're best team in college basketball against the spread. They're playing Penn State today. Take Minnesota +2.5. I'd even say ML. That should get you around like +120 or so. So that's a good bet. Pacific, the other side of the coin. They are the worst team in college basketball. So they are 3-16 against the spread. So take Gonzaga today. Should be an easy lock for you. They'll probably cover 25 by the half. So I want to kick it up to Josh. He's also got a lot of NCAA basketball for you guys.
Yeah, guys, I think we've kind of already covered the 13.5 Tennessee versus Vanderbilt. Yeah, like Naveen said, firsthand knowledge of how good UNC is. 6.5 versus Florida State. Naveen, be careful what you wish for. There might be a chance that Tennessee and Carolina play again, potentially in the Sweet 16 and to advance the Elite Eight. Sorry, Frank. Auburn -2.5 versus Mississippi State. I would obviously I'd smash the under there, and then also at 146. And then obviously taking the spread there at 2.5. Auburn's going to roll Mississippi State. Mizzou, the Battle of Columbia, South Carolina and Missouri. I would take Miz +6.5. We talked about earlier how South Carolina is kind of a paper tiger. I think they're just straight frauds. So Missouri's going to expose them, and then they may not, beat them as bad as I want them to. But I think obviously they cover the +6.5, and then soften them up for a showdown with Tennessee at the midweek game. Kansas +4.5 versus Iowa State. The Big 12, man, it's crazy this year. I think the Big 12 is probably going to get the most teams in the dance. Forecasting out now, I think you can lock in eight or 9 teams for the Big 12 to make the NCAA tournament. Probably the most out of any league. But yeah, give me Kansas +4.5 versus Iowa State. Coach Self gets it done today. And I'll kick it back to Andy for his picks.
Don't really have a ton here. I'm just looking at the line. 1.5 Lakers, underdog at Golden State. To me, this line doesn't make sense. Golden State is the one team that the Lakers, just kind of like the personnel wise, have matched up very well against. The size, the length. We've seen it in the Western Conference Finals last year, as well as in the play-in tournament a couple of years ago. I don't think Warriors can do enough to stop Anthony Davis inside. So I'm going to go with the Lakers +1.5 to wrap up our bets of the weekend. I'm going to spend the last couple of minutes talking about the tennis. So, we will have our special again on Monday night. We plan to have some guest speakers, so please tune in. It's going to be interesting. We'll have a buddy of Naveen's that actually covers tennis professionally. So he's going to be joining us from Down Under. It should be very exciting. A lot of behind the scenes and the locker room stories we're hoping to get out from. We'll also have a friend of mine join, who's very knowledgeable about tennis. So very exciting. Talking about the men's final. Before then, I want to talk about the women's for a second. Sabalenka, very impressive win. No surprises there. Looking at men's final, as we sort of predicted in the Harbaugh reaction show a couple of days ago, Sinner, very strong. The Italian stallion made it. Very, very impressive poise. He's sort of battle tested. We talked about the ELO rating. His ELO rating was even higher than Djokovic. Looking at him versus Medvedev, the ELO rating is almost high. It's about 100-point differential, and if my math is right, that implies about 62% chance that the guy with the higher ELO rating is gonna win. Obviously, chess and tennis are a little bit different, but just purely mathematically speaking, I think the odds reflect that. I think Sinner will come out strong. Medvedev just haven't been playing very quality. I would say Medvedev has the experience, as Roman previously mentioned, but just I'm not impressed with how he's been playing so far. He had that impressive victory against Alexander Zverev in the semifinals, but not at the level that Sinner is playing. So give me Sinner to win the Australian Open. And then I'll just kick it off to you, Naveen. If you agree with me, disagree with me, do you think Sinner can take it for the first time, or is it Medvedev's time?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Sinner. I think, Medvedev has played some consecutive 5-set matches. He's played a lot of like gutsy, long matches, and Sinner is stroking the ball real well. He kind of made light work of Djokovic, and Djokovic and Aussie. That's a huge opponent to get by. But I want him to stay locked in. I don't want him to Alcatraz and be happy to be there and smile and shit. We're talking about Kobe again. Job's not finished.
Job's not finished.
Let's get the job done. Let's go big, Sinner. Josh, why don't you close us out here?
Hey, thanks, brother. So just wanted to remind our fans, the midweek game coming up against South Carolina, it'll be 6:30 p.m. Tennessee versus South Carolina for that game. So we'll probably start our reaction show probably 8:30, 9 o'clock, depending on how long the game takes. So yeah, tune in for that. Continue to comment. We're going to, obviously share this on our YouTube and other social media platforms. So, take all of Frank's hockey bets, man. He's cashing in if you want to be a rich man. And then I think we got some good locks for you this week, but would love to see you guys for the reaction show on Tuesday night after Tennessee takes care of business against South Carolina. And for Josh, Naveen, Frank, and Andy, this has been Locky Top Sports. Thanks for joining us today, and go Vols.
Go Vols, baby.
Sounds good.